They said some reflections aren't meant to be seen, but when Jack looked into it, the glass didn't just show him, it watched him back. It was a quiet Saturday morning when James walked into the antique shop tucked into a narrow side street. Dust floated lazily in the sunlight, spilling through the tall windows. The smell of old wood and aged paper made him feel like he had stepped into another world. That's when he saw it. The mirror. It wasn't particularly large or ornate, just a tall standing mirror with a frame of carved oak, darkened with age. But there was something off about it. He couldn't put his finger on it at first. The reflection seemed sharper than reality, almost alive. The shopkeeper noticed his hesitation and smiled. It's special, that one. Came from the Barrows estate, old place. Strange things happened there? James laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. Strange things. People saw things in it, faces, the man said, almost whispering. Some of them weren't supposed to be there. James shrugged and purchased it anyway, thinking the story was part of its charm. He carried it home, carefully, the glass cool and heavy in his hands. He set it against the wall in his bedroom, the sun streaming across its surface in the late afternoon. For a few days, nothing happened. He checked his reflection in the morning and again at night, and all he saw was himself. Just James, as usual. Then on the fourth night, he noticed it. A faint outline in the corner of the mirror, a figure standing behind him that wasn't there when he turned around. He froze. His heart thumped loudly in his chest. When he blinked, it was gone. He told himself it was a trick of the light, tired eyes playing games, but he couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching him. Over the next week, more faces appeared, shadows at first, blurry and indistinct. But each morning, they seemed clearer. He began to recognize some of them from the old newspapers he kept for work. Faces of people who had lived in the Barrows estate and who had died there. Their eyes were hollow, staring at him with something between pleading and warning. James stopped sleeping well. Every time he walked past the mirror, he felt their eyes follow him. Their mouths moved slightly, though no words came out. He tried covering it, turning it away from the wall, but each night it seemed to find its way back, reflecting the room just as he remembered it, except with those faces looking right at him. He tried talking to friends about it, but they laughed it off. Just a trick of your imagination, they said, but the longer he ignored it, the stronger the pull became. He began to hear whispers, faint at first, almost inaudible, but unmistakable, words that formed like bubbles in a stream, fleeting, help, see, remember. One night, unable to sleep, James approached the mirror and stared into it. The reflection was different now. It wasn't just him. The faces crowded behind him, pressing closer. He reached out to touch the glass, and the cold bit into his fingertips. The air grew heavy, almost suffocating. His reflection blinked, but he hadn't. He stumbled back, heart racing, gasping for air. Something in the mirror was aware of him. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized this wasn't just a mirror. It was keeping memories, holding them, each face a story, a life trapped in the glass. And now it knew him. James began researching the mirror's history. The Barrows estate, abandoned after a series of deaths, had been notorious. The original owner had dabbled in strange sciences, creating objects meant to capture more than just light. James found old documents suggesting the mirror's glass had been infused with a mixture of silver and some unknown compound. rumored to record the essence of those who gazed into it. The more he learned, the more terrified he became. He tried to get rid of the mirror, selling it, donating it, even storing it in the garage. But no matter where it went, it seemed to return always. Some nights he would awaken to it standing in the hallway, reflecting the room exactly as it was, with those faces always watching. One evening, desperate, he set up a camera to record himself overnight. When he watched the footage in the morning, his blood ran cold. The faces moved on their own, turning toward the camera. One of them, a woman with hollow eyes and a faint smile, reached out, pressing her hand against the glass. And then, for a brief moment, her eyes met his reflection. James realized the mirror wasn't just reflecting memories. It was interacting with them. The faces weren't static. They were alive, aware, trapped in a loop, and now they were watching him. He felt a strange compulsion to look into it, though he knew it would only pull him deeper. Days passed. His apartment felt smaller, tighter. The mirror was always in view, and with each glance, more faces crowded in. Some were familiar from newspapers, some he had never seen before, but all were silent, watching, waiting. He began talking to them, quietly at first. "What do you want? Why are you here?" But the whispers never responded directly. Instead, the glass seemed to ripple subtly when he spoke, almost like breathing. One night, he was drawn to it again, unable to resist. His reflection looked back at him, but something was off. The eyes were sharper, darker. The mouths of the faces behind him twisted slightly, forming words he could just barely hear. "Look closer, see yourself, join us." James stumbled backward, falling to the floor. He couldn't breathe. The mirror vibrated faintly, and the edges seemed to blur, the glass growing thicker, deeper, as if the faces were pushing through, pressing into the room. He covered it with a blanket, shaking uncontrollably, but even then, he could see faint outlines moving beneath the fabric, the pressure of their eyes. Weeks went by. His friends stopped calling, worried about his erratic behavior. He stopped eating regularly. He barely slept. And yet, he couldn't leave the mirror alone. It had become a part of him, or perhaps he had become part of it. He began to recognize his own reflection in the faces. Sometimes, when he blinked, his own features would linger in the shadows behind him. Staring with those hollow, pleading eyes, he tried destroying it, hammering the glass, chipping at the frame, pouring water over it. But the mirror survived. Every time he returned to it, it looked untouched, pristine, yet heavier somehow, as if it had absorbed his fear, his anger, his desperation. By the time he understood the truth, it was too late. The mirror didn't just remember faces, it remembered him. And when he looked into it, he could see himself reflected in dozens of distorted, terrified forms, each one trapped in their own moment of horror, screaming silently. The glass pulsed faintly, and for a moment, it felt alive. James knew that he could never escape it. The faces would never let him. He could cover it, move it, try to ignore it. But the mirror had claimed him, just as it had claimed all those who had come before, and every night, when he passed by it, the whispers grew louder, the reflection sharper, the eyes more insistent. He sat on the floor one night, exhausted and terrified, staring at the glass. And then he realized the worst part. He wasn't just seeing the faces anymore. The faces were seeing him. And in that moment, he understood the mirror's cruel truth. It didn't just remember faces. It remembered souls. And now it was remembering his. James reached out slowly, trembling, pressing his fingers against the cold glass. And for a brief heartbeat, he felt the pull, the infinite depth behind the reflections, the silent voices of hundreds of trapped lives calling to him. And then the mirror smiled